Hi, good morning or good afternoon at year 9. Welcome back. We are now at week 3. Um, Hopefully you have covered the lessons, the 2 previous weeks' lessons. So we have done about the different parts of cells and how things move in and out of cells. We're going to be moving on this week to looking at cell division and stem cells, and stem cell research and the ethics involving that. And then we're going to be moving on to organising organisms. Please make sure that you are completing the work on Doddle as well. This just enables us to monitor how you are getting on and for you to see how you're getting on yourselves. Well done to 9W1 for having the most people complete the tasks. If you have not been completing the tasks because you haven't had enough time, I have left the one that is on there at the moment until the end of the Easter holidays, because there won't be any lessons during the Easter holidays. That will give you time to catch up on that. Okay, so we will need the usual equipment for this. We're still on biology paper 1, still following the AQA Combined Science Trilogy. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at cell division. In order for any organism, be it a single-celled or unicellular organism, a prokaryote, for example, like bacteria, or whether it's a multicellular organism, cell division has to occur in order for that animal or plant or microorganism to survive. Okay, a little starter activity. We've got 4 different scientists on this slide. We've got James Watson, Francis Crick, Maurice Wilkins, and Rosalind Franklin. Now, all of them are involved in what we're going to be looking at, which is DNA. Watson and Crick and Wilkins famously associated with discovering the structure of DNA. Rosalind Franklin, though, was fundamental in that discovery, and yet she's not often cited when talking about the discovery of DNA. So if you'd like to have a read of the information of those 4 scientists, and then there is a question at the bottom which says, why did Franklin not receive the Nobel Prize? Why do you think that is? So pause this video now, read the information, and decide why she did not receive the Nobel Prize. Okay, now there isn't a right or wrong answer for this really. It's just your thoughts for it. As you can see, it was in 1962 that the Nobel Prize was given out to Watson, Crick and Wilkins. Back in those days, it was very, very rare to have female scientists. So any work that female scientists did do was often overlooked, or the accomplishments were taken by the male scientists, which obviously is very, very wrong, and thankfully times have changed. Right, so what we're going to be looking at in this first lesson is something called the cell cycle, of which part of that is mitosis. So we need to know what mitosis is, and we need to know what happens in the overall cell cycle. So we're going to be looking at how that happens. If you pause the video and have a look at what you need to be able to do in order to achieve your grade, and then we will start. Right, now the clue is kind of the title of the lesson, but if you could have a look at these 4 pictures, try and work out what the pictures are of. They're not all to do with cells, the whole cell. So if you have a look through those, decide what you think they're to do with and what you think the link is between all 4. Okay, so hopefully you've had a thought about that. All of them are to do with cell division. So on the left-hand side, you will see cells dividing, the whole cell dividing. On the right-hand side, at the top, you've actually got structures called chromosomes that we'll look at in a minute. Those are separating out to two sides of the nucleus. And then on the right-hand side at the bottom, we've also got cancer, and that is when this cell cycle is uncontrolled. You just get uncontrolled division of cells, which form things called tumours. Now, cell division is very, very important, and there's a couple of reasons why cell division is important. You can see that we have got growth. So in order to grow, it's not that your cells themselves are just getting bigger, it's that they're dividing. So the cells will stay the same size, but they divide, so there is just more of them. Repair of worn out tissues. So if you have got parts that are wearing out, so quite often in places like the skin, in the digestive system, and also repair of damaged tissue. So if you cut yourself or injure yourself, then that tissue needs to repair. So you need cell division in order to do that. Right, now if you look inside any of your body cells, there will be a whole set of information of how to make you. So no matter what the cell is, apart from red blood cells, which don't have a nucleus, all the other cells of the body will have a set of instructions of which you can make you. The new cells must have the same genetic information. So when the cells are dividing, each one of them has got to have the same amount of information. We're going to be looking at how they actually achieve this. So how is it that during cell division, each daughter cell, we call them, how each daughter cell ends up with the same genetic information. Okay, so you may want to pause the video at the end of this slide and make some notes. Don't just copy it, just read through it and put it into your own words, abbreviate it, just put down bits that you didn't know beforehand. We're going to go through this. On the right hand side, you can see that there is a picture of how everything fits together in terms of size. On the right hand side, you've got a nucleotide, so that's the chemical that makes up DNA, and then the DNA going to genes, the genes coming together on these structures called chromosomes, and then the chromosomes in the nucleus of our cells. So each cell has a nucleus that contains chromosomes. Chromosomes carry genes that contain instructions needed to make new cells. So on each of those chromosomes that you have, there's loads and loads of genes, and those genes are what make you. Chromosomes are made up of a molecule, a chemical called DNA. A gene controls a characteristic or part of a characteristic. So for instance, you'll have a gene for your eye colour, a gene for your hair colour. All of that is controlled by proteins, and it's the genes that make proteins. Human body cells contain 46 chromosomes, and they're arranged in 23 pairs. So different organisms will have different numbers of chromosomes. Humans have 46. Quite a few organisms will have more. Quite a few organisms will have less than that. A cell that has pairs of chromosomes is said to be diploid. So a diploid cell is where you've got these chromosomes in pairs, as opposed to haploid, which will come up in another chapter, where it's only got one of each of the chromosomes. And that's in reproduction. So here is a picture. These chromosomes have been stained just to make them show up a little bit more, and you can see that you've got 22 pairs of chromosomes plus the sex chromosomes. So depending on your gender, If you are female, you'll have 2 of the X chromosomes, whereas if you're male, you'll have an X and a Y chromosome. On the right-hand side, it's showing a pair of these chromosomes, and we call these pairs homologous chromosomes. So homologous means the same, so it's the same chromosome, but you've got 2 different versions of it. You have one from your dad, which is the paternal, and then you have one from your mother, which is the maternal. Right, so here we have got a little bit of a copy and complete, which will just abbreviate all of the stuff that we were looking at. So can you pause the video and copy down the sentences, including all of the missing words? Okay, so hopefully we have got the following. So each cell in the body has a nucleus containing the instructions for making new cells. A gene controls a characteristic of your body, and they're contained on chromosomes. There are 23 pairs of chromosomes in every body cell except the gametes, which are egg and sperm. If you haven't come across the word gamete before, it's just the scientific term for the sex cells, so the egg cell and the sperm cell. One of each pair is inherited from your mother and one from your father, and obviously it doesn't matter which way around you have put those 2. Right, so we're going to have a look at the cell cycle now. And there are 3 main stages to the cell cycle. You've got the largest phase, or the one that takes the longest amount of time, is referred to as interphase. And you can see that in the diagram on the bottom left in the greeny colour. And during that time of the cell cycle, you've got the chromosomes replicating or copying themselves. And then you have the growth of the cell itself. The other parts of the cell cycle are mitosis, which is where the nucleus divides into 2. So the chromosomes have replicated, and then half of them go to one side, the other half go to the other side of the nucleus, and it divides. And then we have got the division of the cytoplasm and all of the organelles inside the cytoplasm. And that is referred to as cytokinesis. So body cells divide in a series of stages known as the cell cycle. Cell division in the cell cycle involves a process called mitosis, and it produces 2 identical cells. So if you have a look at the picture on the right-hand side, you can see what we refer to as the parent cell. So that's kind of the original cell. And then during that interphase, you've got the DNA replication. So all of those chromosomes are replicating themselves. So there's 2 copies of each of those chromosomes. Then you have mitosis, where the nucleus divides into 2. Cytokinesis, where the cytoplasm also divide, the cell membrane pinches off, and you end up with 2 daughter cells. Now, I'll mention it now, but again in a future topic, we have got, in reproduction, there's another type of cell division called meiosis. And very, very common exam question is where they're asking you to compare the 2 types of cell division. So mitosis, very important to remember that it produces 2 daughter cells, because that is different in meiosis. The length of the cell cycle depends on the type of cell. So depending on how short-lived a cell is, or depending on how often it needs replacing, will determine how long that cell cycle is. So it can take as little as 24 hours for a cell to divide into 2, or it can take several years. Now, it's very poorly copied. I do apologise for that, but we have got a picture kind of just showing again the 3 different stages of the cell cycle. So the longest one being the first stage or interphase, where you've got that DNA replicating itself. Also, though, you're going to need to replicate all of the structures inside, so the mitochondria, the ribosomes, which we've looked at in a previous lesson. The second stage is mitosis, where the nucleus is dividing into two, and each one of those nuclei will have one set of chromosomes. And then in stage 3, we've got the cell actually dividing into two, so the division of the cytoplasm and the cell membrane. It's cytokinesis. Right, so now we're going to have a look at applying that knowledge to some exam questions. So we've got 2 questions here. The first one is asking cells lining the human intestine complete the cell cycle in a short time. Explain the advantage of these cells completing the cell cycle in a short time. So remember, the command word in there is explain, so you need to say why it would be an advantage. The second one is more mathematical. So the time required for a cell to complete the cell cycle was 4 hours, 18 minutes. Calculate the time required in minutes for this cell to multiply to produce 8 cells. So first of all, you're going to have to work out how many divisions that is. Then you're going to have to do that conversion of hours into minutes, and then find a total. You will require a calculator for that. So if you could pause the video, have a go at answering those questions, and we'll look at the answers shortly. Right, so you don't have to use a different colour pen, but if you have one available, it's just a nice easy way to see what you are getting and what you're not still getting. So you can have a look back, but we're going to have a look at the answers to those 2 questions. Right, the first question was explain the advantage of these cells completing the cell cycle in a short time. The advantage is that it's quickly, and you must refer to speed, that it's happening quickly, to replace cells, or you can say for cells to divide or multiply or replicate. Any of those words, but you must have the idea of speed, so it's happening faster. It's faster to replace damaged cells would be a perfectly good answer. For the second part, the final answer is 774 minutes, which is 12 hours and 54 minutes, although it does ask you to give it to it in minutes. So 774 minutes would be the best answer. And the reason how they got to 774 is hopefully you realised it was 3 divisions. So if you're starting with 1 cell, that will divide into 2, that's 1 division. Those 2 will divide into 4, that's a 2nd division. And then those 4 will become 8, that's the 3rd division. If you convert 4 hours and 18 minutes, that becomes 258 minutes. So 4 times 60 plus the 18 gives you 258. So if you do 258 times 3, you get 774 minutes. Okay, so if you have a look through now at the different grading, make sure that you are able to do those different parts depending on what your grade is that you are aiming for. Well done for accessing this lesson on cell division. Keep up the good work. I hope you and your families are staying safe. Don't forget that at the end of these series of lessons that there is work on Doodle that you can do as well. Right, that's it from me. So well done. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon.